Conducted, there were Fred Biletnikoff, Alan Page, Mike Ditka, and Jack Ham.
And there is something morally wrong about football in July. I don't care what anybody says.
But ask the guys that are playing.
That's right. Thank you, Dwayne. Well, finally tonight, old trains are still chugging along in Chatham County. A dedicated group of volunteers are keeping railroading alive in Bonsall. Tomorrow, you can share in their fun during an open house. But tonight, WTVD photographer Dave Wertheimer profiled one of the train buffs who likes to spend his free time working on the railroad.
Railroad history it's got something that just makes you glow when you start talking about an old train. My name is David K. and I work for the town of Fuquay-Varina. I'm a police officer and I really love trains, and I come down here on my days off and work just about as much down here as I do for the police department. I love it. That's why I do it. It's a good feeling. It's like energy inside you. You can just come down here, and of course we're out here in the middle of nowhere almost. It's woods and you're free and it's quiet, and the only thing you hear is the birds and the trees and the train whistle going through the woods.
Stand by before entering back into the yard. We're going to be doing some switching out.
The railroad should be saved in this country because sooner or later we're going to have to go back to them. It's a lot of fun to come down here and work on the rail, to ride these motor cars, ride the trains, and it's nice to be able to say I fixed that caboose or I rebuilt that engine or something. It gives you a sense of pride.
That's our report for now. For Lisa Patton, Dwayne Ballin, and the entire WTVD 11 News team, I'm Kelly McHenry. Thanks for joining us, and have a great Sunday. Good night.
This has been a presentation of WTVD 11 News, serving the heart of Carolina for more than 30 years.
These parents and kids take bike racing seriously. Why, for them, it's an all-American sport. So it's no wonder that parent volunteers bulldozed over an acre of land donated by the Optimist Club to build their youngsters a bicycle motocross racing track.
It's fun. I mean, the competition's fun, and coming out here and seeing all my friends and stuff.
Kids from Burlington and Raleigh come to race the twisting terrain. It's a track that organizers hope will someday host state and national competition.
This is a bicycle racing facility sanctioned by the National Bicycle League, and we're here to give our children, our adults, something to do in the summertime.
While supporters say they were careful to adhere to bike laws, they didn't address land laws. And state officials say the construction of the track is a threat to the environment. They say it erodes the land and sediment into a nearby stream.
Sedimentation is one of the largest pollutants in North Carolina by volume. And sediment entering a stream can bring other pollutants to the stream.
Land specialists say organizers must implement structures on the site to prevent sedimentation.
They were talking $50,000, $60,000.
Smith says volunteers just don't have that kind of money, and there's fear they may have to close the track. But all is not lost. State officials are reviewing a plan to prevent erosion submitted by the UP. So for the time being, the kids can continue to ride high. For Night Watch, Gail Pascal, WTVD 11 News, Sanford. It's not every day you see something blow up. That's why these spectators, most with cameras, turned out to see the old Burlington Mills smokestacks come down. This 175-footer was one of the tallest stacks in the city.
It's amazing what 60 sticks of dynamite can do in about 5 seconds. While what's blown up is a lot of brick and concrete, to some people, what's destroyed is a lot of memories.
It kind of made you feel, you know, like you'd lost a friend or something.
Louis Rigsby worked at the mill for 42 years. Now he's a security guard for the new owners. who plan to put a $100 million development in its place.
Well, I think that got to make room for new development, you know.
Hours later, the 120-foot twin stacks came tumbling down.
It's now ready. We're just here we go. Excellent. Excellent. Good shooting. Good day's work.
But even when the smoke clears, the work is not over. The rest of the abandoned mill will be blasted in a couple of weeks. For Night Watch, Gail Pascal, WTVD 11 News, Durham.
When rescue workers arrived, the 7-year-old mare named Miss Dockwood was tied in the trailer on Mount Vernon Road in northern Wake County. Her owner, Jamie Broadwell, was visibly shaken by the wreck and the predicament it left his horse in. He says he had just pulled out of his driveway when a bee got in the cab of the truck and stung him. He lost control and slid into the ditch, but the bee sting wasn't to be his only injury. During the rescue attempt, Miss Dockwood spooked and kicked Broadwell in the leg.
Okay, I need a leg split. Then we get a board in there. Whenever you need it, we'll get him out of there.
Broadwell's leg may have been fractured, so he was forced to sit out the rest of the rescue in an inflatable. The big heroes here are members of the Bayleaf Volunteer Fire Department, but they did need some help with advice because, as their chief says, this isn't exactly the kind of thing that happens every day. Advice came in the form of a veterinarian who came with a needle full of sedative. Before long, Miss Dockwood calmed, and it was time to try to right the trailer. Once the horse was on its feet, the doctor gave his diagnosis.
We're going to get her off here in just a couple minutes and be sure everything's okay, but right now things look fine.
Jamie Broadwell watched the ambulance and was overcome by the sight of his horse alive, well, and walking.
Thank Bayleaf. Bayleaf showed up very quick. And I thank everybody, the Highway Patrol and rescue squad here and the vet, everybody to help. I'm just glad my baby's okay.
Well, Six Forks Rescue and our people we were concerned about the welfare of the horse, and that was the primary thing right here. And I'm just tickled to death that everything seems to be all right.
Miss Dockwood was on her way to a 4-H show at the state fairgrounds where she was expected to win top honors. She missed that contest, but the good news is she's going to be able to compete. Ed Crump, WTVD 11 News, Wake County.
Two GIs wait patiently, dwarfed by a huge C-5A transport plane in the distance. Another GI covers his face with war paint, checking his progress in what appears to be a compact. Yet another painted GI puffs a cigarette as he contemplates the mission ahead. Welcome to the flight line.
Getting chalk order.
1,500 gathered here this night for the launching of Operation Gallant Eagle. Billed as a joint military training operation, this one-week mission to the Mojave Desert will utilize the Army, Air Force, and Marines. But for Sergeant Joe Munoz, it is just another trip away from his wife and children.
It's always tough, but I've adjusted to it. She and the kids have all adjusted to it, so.
Though this sea of green seems to reflect uniformity, there are servicemen from Great Britain and Egypt here, as well as the U.S. GIs. In his brief stay here, this Egyptian soldier has made it and wants a snapshot to remember him by. The Brits, too, have been making friends.
Yeah, we've just had a weekend in Myrtle Beach, which went down extremely well. Very enjoyable. Everybody behaved themselves and had a good time.
These men aren't particularly excited about their mission. It is just another chapter in their ongoing training. Still, there is a certain sense of determination one finds in these men. They are being challenged. This sunset is the coolest such sunset they will see in a week. The next sunrise they face will bring with it scorching 100 temperatures. They know they must operate as a cohesive unit in that heat, because the next time they leave Fort Bragg, it could be for a real military operation in the deserts of the Middle East. On the flight line at Pope Air Force Base, George Mallet, WTVD 11 News.
Beachgoers have been told to come inside, and as we mentioned earlier, residents along the coast have been bracing all day for gusty winds, rain, and possibly tornadoes. WTVD's Greg Bob in Long Beach, North Carolina. We're going to check in with him right now for the latest. Greg?
Well, Claire, as you might expect, everyone here along the North Carolina coast is breathing a collective sigh of relief. Right now, as you can see, I'll get my cameraman Dave Wertheimer to give you a live-eye view of what the coast looks like. You're seeing a lot of high wind, a lot of rain, and some cloudy skies. Some seasoned veterans down here say that Tropical Storm Chris was nothing more than a blow, but he certainly left his mark as he back here Hill State. The storm warnings went up early today for the state's first brush with the 1988 hurricane season as torrential rains and high winds began hammering southern North Carolina beaches. Ocean Isle businessman Ronnie Holden braved the weather to check his airplane after residents say a storm-spawned tornado hit the Ocean Isle airport just after 3 p.m.
They got it turning around now. It turned one around in the hangar, turned it sideways, hit the plane, tore the oil cooler off it. Hit a pine tree across the road over here.
Beach erosion and shallow flooding, heavy surf and rip tides are quite possible, likely even.
Farther to the north, the approaching storm was seen by some as more an inconvenience than any threat. While this is the kind of weather that makes vacationers shiver and property owners shudder, for one group, look right out there. They say this is nothing short of heaven.
The wind's blowing real bad if you hit it too hard. If you don't hit you, 2 boys already got cut today.
Because of
real
it?
Bad, yeah.
The rough seas and high winds also made for poor fishing, and most boats were docked and anchored as a precaution.
This is just a tropical storm, you know. We don't really worry too much unless we get a hurricane. We keep an eye on them, but we don't worry too much about those.
Well, while the threat from Tropical Storm Chris may be over with, at least for folks here along the North Carolina, big concern right now is what's going to happen at high tide. The tide will be high here in Long Beach around 9 o'clock tonight, and there have been reports that it will be unusually high, and we could see a lot of beach erosion. We'll be out here tonight, and we'll bring you an update at 11 o'clock.
Thank you very much, Greg. WTVD's Greg Barnes reporting live from the North Carolina coast. WTVD's Greg Barnes is live now in Long Beach, North Carolina with the latest. Greg, seems like this was the storm that wasn't.
Almost. While Chris did fizzle its way inland to North and South Carolina, we are still feeling some of its effects here along the coast. It is very windy out here, though it is high tide. It was high tide about 9 o'clock, so you can see it has peaked and it is starting to go out some. But I want to show you something. Right about here on the beach is where the high tide mark is normally at Long Beach. Today's high tide came another 15 feet past these 2 snow fences up to the sand dunes up there. I don't know how well you can see all the sea foam there. That is very bad news, especially, there goes my hat, that's very bad news, especially for the residents who had hoped they had bitten the bullet on this tropical storm. Like lots of others along the coast today, Sunset Beach residents Ernest and Marianne Olson had a collective sigh of relief as the sun tried to break through the overcast skies just before dusk.
It wasn't all that bad. It was a lot of wind, a lot of rain. Got awful dark.
That backhanded slap spawned heavy rains and high winds, and at least one reported tornado that hit the Ocean Isle Beach Airport, flipping 1 airplane and damaging 2 others. For businessman Ronnie Holden, it was like deja vu.
Last year in July, I had one sitting over here one day too, and the storm hit it, flipped it, totaled it. I came up here again today and turned over in the same place.
But it wasn't until after dark and at high tide that residents along the coast once again began worrying, this time about the huge waves that were breaking on shore. Here on the Ocean Crest Pier, about 200 yards from shore, you can see just how heavy this surf is. Look at that. Waves anywhere from 8 to 10 feet high are being pushed ashore by winds gusting at 30 to 40 knots. While most could only stand and watch the waves, for Greensboro resident Wayne Stutz, the pounding surf was his worst nightmare come true.
I'm worried. I'm worried about the beach erosion. I just bought my place down here a month ago, and it may be all right. I just don't know that much about beach erosion, but it sure looks bad.
Now, at this hour, we can only hope that it looks a lot worse than it really is. We won't know until tomorrow morning just how much of this beach sand has been eroded away from North Carolina beaches. And Claire, folks who have property down here, including this reporter, will tell you, next to gold, this beach sand is some of the most important property you'll find here in North Carolina.
All right, thank you very much, Greg. WTVD's Greg Barnes reporting live on the North Carolina coast.
I'm ready for him to go.
If she's ready, I'm ready.
10, we're go for main engine start. 7,
6.
Have main engine start.
Oh, look at it.
2, 1, 0, and liftoff. Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
Golly, look at that, Vivian. Ain't that beautiful? God.
3 engines at 104%. Pretty good APU.
Look at it!
Standing by to begin. Throttle down to 65%.
The ground is shaking.
Ain't that beautiful?
It's the most moving thing I've ever seen.
A whole lot better in person than it is watching somebody.
God bless America. Oh, isn't it beautiful? This is great. Wonderful. And this is what America is all about.
It's the best thing that's happened.
Hell yeah, hell.
Standing by to see engines begin to throttle back up at about 59 seconds. Mark 1 minute, velocity 2,300 feet per second, altitude 5.9 nautical miles, downrange distance 3 nautical miles.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
William and Vivian Easterling drove all the way from Rocky Mount to see their very shuttle launch.
We've never seen one. We've always talked about coming down. We had a chance to do it, so we came.
They joined hundreds of thousands of others who gathered along the Cape, even in the water itself, to watch Discovery lift off. The morning went slowly. People slept, their alarm clocks not too far away, or watched the preparations on television. At T-minus 9 minutes and counting, things started picking up dramatically, and at 2 minutes, they broke loose.
I got goosebumps.
I do too.
Yes, he's excited.
I am too. I'm getting excited.
Simply put, William and Vivian Easterling had never seen anything like it.
3, 2, 1, there it goes. There it goes. Lift off. Lift off. The ground is. Golly, look at that, Vivian. Ain't that beautiful? God.
The whole crowd was caught up in the moment, a patriotic moment, for a space program that simply needed this one. And for two people from Rocky Mount, the thrill of a lifetime.
I'm just so glad we got to come and watch it. It's been worth every anxious moment.
It's been great. It's great. I wouldn't have missed it for anything.
Daybreak at Cape Canaveral was as picture-perfect as the launch. The million-plus people who came to see the liftoff streamed onto the base even before the sun came up, backing up traffic for miles. But they soon felt their first disappointment. Discovery's launch would be delayed at least an hour because of severe wind conditions, so they settled in for the wait.
I'm going to be here until it goes, and they told me to go home. I'm staying.
NASA sent up weather balloons about every half hour to test the winds. They actually exceeded the tough limits NASA enforced after the Challenger exploded. Experts decided to waive the rules, saying it was a very calculated risk in light of the 51L launch or Challenger, and that Discovery could handle it.
It wasn't taken lightly, and I guess speaking as a member of the mission management team, if you've lived through 51L, you're never going to take it for granted.
Well, nothing succeeds like success, and NASA proved the risk was worth it. Discovery flew like a bird. It was a launch NASA simply had to have. Base employees watched anxiously, knowing the program was on the line. It was when Discovery went beyond Challenger's ill-fated flight that they knew the long ordeal was finally over. Discovery still has a long way to go before it's a complete success. But this mission accomplished what 2.5 years of questions never could. It proved once and for all that it still has a future in space.
Mules and donkeys are commonly referred to as the beasts of burden. But on this final day of the state fair, they got a chance to strut their stuff. There's every kind of mule imaginable, with riders great and small. In this arena, the animals are judged on easy riding and control. And there are prizes for the best in the house.
It's the first place, and I didn't expect it. During the class, I was so nervous, I was shaking, and when they called my number, I was so relieved and so excited. I'm still shaking.
North Carolina is one of the largest mule-producing states in the country, so it's only fitting and proper that these animals come here to race. And boy, are they ready, kicking up dust and raising all kinds of fuss. Well, it's not exactly the chariot races of the Roman era, but it's just as much fun. Let the mule race begin. Let's on, Kate, on. Yeah! Woo! Yeah! It's a race against time, and each rider has his own good luck charm to ensure a win.
Go. Go. Go.
Organizers say the mule race is the last event because they save the best for last.
I'm sure you'll agree too. It's all fun, but this is just excitement. It's so much competition, and it's a timed event, and so there's no doubts.
At the state fairgrounds, Gail Pascal, WTVD 11 News.